start growing up around it, and nobody's checking, nobody's paying attention to see how's that little seed doing. And before you know it, you can't see it anymore. And guess what happens when you have weeds that are growing around your little seed? The weeds start taking the water that the seed needs. That little plant, it needs all the water and the sunlight that it can get. But how much sunlight do you think it can get hidden in there?
0.
0. Right. And how much water do you think is going to be available when there's a much bigger plant here?
0.
0. So what's going to happen to the seed? It's going to die. There's no way around that. So, what do you think the weeds are? They're worries. And we all have different worries. Every single one of us. I have worries, and you have worries. And I don't know what your worries are, so I had to try to guess. So I probably guessed wrong, but maybe I guessed right. So maybe one of your worries is you're afraid of being lonely. So maybe loneliness is a thing that you worry about. Or maybe when you are alone, you feel lonely and it makes you worry. And you know what happened? Your heart forgot that seed that was planted, that Jesus said, I will never leave you. That means you're never alone. If you have Jesus in your heart, you're never alone. So that worry got so big, you forgot the seed that was in there that said, you're not alone. I'm always with you. You might be worried about being liked or being cool at school. I want everyone to like me. I want everyone to think that I'm cool, that I'm awesome. I want to have the best clothes. But you know what? You forgot the seed from the Bible that says, if you are a follower of Jesus, if you're a disciple, you're different. And you are going to stand out because you have a light that shines. And that light is very bright and it looks different. And it's okay to be different. So when we have too many worries, we start choking out that seed, right? So then there's no seed, there's just weeds that are sitting in our heart. So there's one more kind of soil. Who knows what somebody tell me. Good soil. So your verse that you guys are memorizing, it says, but the seed on good soil stands for those with a noble and good heart who hear, they have to hear it, hear the word, and that's the seed, and they retain it, which means they hold on to it, and by persevering, they produce a crop. Do you know what a crop is? It means, it means like you're getting produce, like vegetables, or maybe you got some flowers or some wheat or something like that. You planted a seed and it grew and you got some kind of food off of it, or flowers. So persevering, do you know what that means? It means you keep going. Even when it's hard, it means you don't give up. It means you don't quit. It means you don't say, well, that's not for me. It's you keep going. So this is what the good soil looks like. And look at that. It's got wheat growing in it. It grew all the way up from a little seed into a crop, because it says that it will produce a crop, some 60, some 30, and some 100. So one little seed will give you one of these, and these all have more seeds in them. So, this soil, does anybody notice, does it have any weeds in it?
No.
No. Does it have rocks in it?
No.
Does it look like it's really hard?
No.
It's not. It's very, very, very soft dirt. So, there's something else you have to remember. Remember that your memory verse says persevere, and you got to keep going. It takes time for you to be able to grow and to produce a crop. So if some of you plant vegetable gardens with your mom, right? And how many of you know that if you went out today, well, you can't today, but let's pretend it's summertime. If you went out and you planted a seed for a tomato plant, do you like tomatoes? Cucumbers, peppers. Yeah, those are cucumbers. So if you wanted to get some cucumbers or pickles or some peppers or tomatoes in your garden, if you put a seed out there today, how many of you think that tomorrow you would have vegetables on it? No, you wouldn't. Not even in 2 days' time. It takes a long time. And that little seed, it starts growing, and guess what? I bet your mom or your dad or even you have to go out there when it's real little because you have to check on it. You have to take care of it. You have to make sure that it's in the sun. You have to make sure, does it need water? And you have to be watching. Are there any weeds growing up around it? How many gardens have ever been taken over by weeds? And it's quick, isn't it? You're there, there's no weeds, you come back, and it's full of weeds, and you're like, what happened? Well, our heart is the same way. We have to be watching. So when we're taking care of the soil of our heart and that seed is growing, it takes time. And so we can't be discouraged, and we can't feel like, well, I forgave like 10 times today, and I can't forgive any more tomorrow. But we have to. If we want to have fruit grow, we have to keep forgiving, right? We have to keep going and keep trying, and eventually that little cucumber plant or the tomato plant that you planted, or even if you planted flowers for it to get a flower on it, if you wait, it gets bigger, doesn't it? And it gets stronger. That's because its roots went down deep and it went up tall. And the next thing you know, it's got fruit all over it. And you can see all the work paid off, right? So it's the same for your heart. So what do you think a crop in your heart might look like? Or what do you think that the vegetables coming off the seed in your heart might look like? I came up with some ideas. It might look like obeying your parents with a good attitude. That's a good fruit, isn't it? It might look like loving your brother or your sister when you don't feel like it. That's a good fruit. It might mean being kind to the kids in school that nobody likes, because that's what Jesus would do, right? So that would be good fruit. It might look like telling the truth when you feel like lying. But those are good fruits. Or the fruit of the Spirit. Did you guys study that at all?
We did last year.
So you studied the fruit of the Spirit. Those are fruits that you should see growing out of your heart. But so, when you're thinking about your heart and you're wondering what kind of soil you have, you should always be asking, do I have too many worries? And if I have too many worries and I don't know what to do with them, then you need to ask somebody. Help me. I need to know, what does the Bible say about loneliness? I need to know what the Bible says about fear, or whatever you might have in your heart. Or maybe you have the rocks that are in your heart, and you need somebody to help you to say, okay, I just need to keep going. Even when it's hard, I need to keep going, so that you can pull the rocks out. Because if your heart gets too many rocks, guess what? Pretty soon you're cement, and it'll happen quick. So we always want to be guarding our hearts and be the gardener in our hearts, digging out the weeds, pulling out the rocks. And I think that's really good to do is to ask somebody, like your mom and dad, or your teachers here at Shine, or at Sunday school, or if you have friends that love Jesus, to ask them, do you see any good seeds growing in my heart? Do you notice any weeds? Because sometimes we don't notice our own weeds, and sometimes we don't even see the rocks that are there. And so we can ask people that love Jesus, do you see any rocks in there that I need to dig out? Or do I have corners of it that are cement? And if that's so, the Lord, He wants to take care of those things for you. He wants you to have the soft soil in your heart that seed can grow in. That's it.